हेलो।
ਇਹਦੀ ਫ੍ਰੀਕੁਐਂਸੀ ਕੁਛ ਹੋਰ ਹੈ, ਇਹਦੇ ਮਾਈਕ ਕੁਛ ਹੋਰ ਹੈ, ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੇ ਮਾਈਕ ਪਲੇਸਮੈਂਟ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਪਏ ਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਚੱਲੇਗਾ ਹੈ ਯਾਰ। ਸਟੈਂਡਰਡ ਸੇਮ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵਾ, ਮਾਨ ਫ੍ਰੀਕੁਐਂਸੀ ਦਾ ਫਰਕ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ। ਇਹ ਪਲੇਸਮੈਂਟ ਸਾਡਾ ਮਾਈਕ ਹੋਇਆ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ। ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਮਾਈਕ ਚੈੱਕ, ਮਾਈਕ ਚੈੱਕ, ਮਾਈਕ ਚੈੱਕ, ਮਾਈਕ 1, ਮਾਈਕ 2, माइक 1, माइक 2,
प्लेसमेंट का है, प्लेसमेंट प्लान होना चाहिए ही बंद किया होंगे
लाइट ऑन।
सॉफ्टवेयर केड़ा है
Yes, I will. Which slide?
विक्रांत
HDMI? Okay. Yeah.
which is started by the Department of Science and Technology. So they are footing the bill for everything, and we are just lucky to have him here and to listen to him free of cost. You know, it's a great thing. So I wrote that program, and luckily I was awarded that along with the IIT Indore.
different processes. We are used to lectures in the classrooms, but now the things, they are changing a lot, that you have to keep the things going on. These lectures, they can be reread again and again through the videos, through their different programs. You can sit in the library, you can read those lectures at your will. So with these programs, the method of sharing the knowledge or gaining the knowledge by the students is undergoing a sea change in our country, though it is too late. Only 2 weeks back, we have started with whenever they are required. And some components of these lectures, they can be included as a part of the teaching programs, so that they remain alive for the students. And then, though Professor Geeta has a main responsibility for running the program, but I would like that many of us should continue with the program. We should learn the things. At least you should have one person who can continue when she is not present or she has to do the other responsibilities in the department or in the university, so that none of the parts of the lectures is missed during this period. So with these words, I again welcome Dr. Richard for these lectures and Dr. Geeta for inviting me in this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Subodh. And indeed, he made a very useful suggestion that these lectures should be available to us later on. I don't know whether right now it is being done. Is it the practice of Gyan or not? But I will surely inquire about it. If these lectures would be available to us later on also, it's really, really going to be very helpful. So thank you, Dr. Subodh, for that. Now I invite Professor Manoj Kumar, head of the department, to thank the speaker and the participants who have come over here, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have been assigned a very pleasant duty of proposing a vote of thanks. At the very first outset, I would like to thank Ministry of Human Resource and Development for starting this program, which is very, very important for students all over the country, where they can have the benefits of listening to faculties from different institutes, universities in the world. So later on, this program was adopted in our universities around 1.5 years ago. And under this program, already, as Dr. Plavinder told, that 6 to 7 programs have already been organized and completed successfully. I would like to thank Professor Richard Layfield for sparing his valuable time to come to Amritsar in this very hot weather to deliver lectures. I know it's really taxing to be in Amritsar in this hot weather, and Professor Richard is from UK, and the weather in UK is not like the weather we have in Amritsar these days. And he has come very early this morning, around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. This morning. And I can understand he must be feeling a jet lag. And it's really difficult straightway after a few hours to come back and deliver a lecture. So I'm really very thankful to you, Professor Richard, sparing your valuable time to deliver the lectures under Gyan program in our universities. I am sure the lectures delivered by Professor Richard Layfield will be very, very useful to all the participants who are attending this course. since, as Dr. Geeta told, that this is one of the main areas of research these days, and in our department, we are taught a very preliminary about this subject. So I'm sure the lectures delivered by Professor Richard Layfield will be very, very useful. I'm also thankful to Professor Geeta Hundal, who took initiative to organize these lectures. I remember last year in 2016, when we were organizing a conference in the month of February, 2nd, 3rd February, and Professor Richard Layfield was one of the invited speakers. During the dinner time, this idea was conceived, why not to invite Dr. Richard Layfield under Gyan program in this university. And I am really thankful to Dr. Geeta Hundal, who took all this initiative, and ultimately the visit of Professor Layfield was materialized. I'm also thankful to my colleagues who have specially come on Sunday. Again, Sunday is one day where you have many other assignments, and you have to come here for this purpose. I'm really thankful to you all. I'm also thankful to the participants who have come from different departments, different universities, different colleges to attend the lecture. I'm also thankful to the persons from Computer Science and Engineering Department who have made the arrangement for live telecast of all these lectures. I'm also thankful to Professor Palwinder Singh, who is actively coordinating the programs. And in the last, I am also thankful to all the non-teaching staff members who are associated with the organization of these lectures, and also the students, volunteers of our department who are working very hard for successful organization of these lectures. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Manoj. So as most of us know, this program is going to run for 5 days, that is from 6th to 10th August. So today we have only one lecture because, Dr. Richard only arrived at 3 o'clock early in the morning, and he has slept only for a few hours before he had to come over here. So we are sparing him today with one lecture only. And from tomorrow onwards, we'll be having 3 lectures daily, starting from 12 o'clock. With lunch in between, and we'll be, busy up to 4 o'clock. So it's really a very, very busy schedule for him and for all of us. The time table and the schedule has already been given to all of us, and I don't need to go into that, I think. So with my words of thanks, now we formally, going to start with the lecture, and I think I should introduce you with our speaker for today and for the next 4 days also. That is Professor Richard Layfield. He is at the University of Manchester. Richard Layfield is a professor of inorganic chemistry in the School of Chemistry and Assistant Vice Dean for Research in the Faculty of Engineering and Physical Sciences. He graduated with master's degree from the University of Leeds in 1999 and a PhD from the University of Cambridge in 2002. His academic background, his academic journey started as a temporary university lecturer in inorganic chemistry in the Department of Chemistry, University of Cambridge, where he worked for 3 years from 2004 to 2007. Later, he joined as a university lecturer in Inorganic Chemistry, School of Chemistry, the University of Manchester in 2007. From 2007 to 2013, he worked as a lecturer. Then he became a reader in the same department in 2013, and for 2 years he continued to be a reader when he was, again promoted to professor of inorganic chemistry, School of Chemistry in the University of Manchester. So since 2015, he is working there as a full professor. His research interests are very many varied. His research covers a range of topics centered on the synthetic organometallic and coordination chemistry, with emphasis on lanthanides, molecular magnetism, and carbene complexes. He has numerous papers, all in very high-impact journals from RSCA, CS, and Wiley, which speak about the quality of research he is involved with. He has got many awards. In 2006, he was given a Royal Society of Chemistry Meldola Medal and Prize. During 2013 to 2012, he was a Humboldt Fellow, which is given to very highly experienced researchers. In 2013, he got RSC Sir Edward Frankland Fellowship. In 2014, he was awarded as Rising Star Lecturership in the International Conference on Coordination Chemistry. And from 2015 to 2020, up till 2020, he has been given ERC Consolidator Grant. And as far as teaching is concerned, he's an excellent teacher. He's mainly teaching main group chemistry, F-block chemistry, topics in inorganic chemistry like advanced main group chemistry and non-classical multiple bonds. So this is a short introduction to the speaker we have today with us and for the next 4 days. And once again, I welcome all of you here in this hall, and we'll be here spending a lot of time for the next 4 days also. I now request Professor Richard to start. Thank you.
Okay, well, we've just had a series of people standing up saying thank you to various other people in this room. It would be remiss of me not to start with a series of genuinely heartfelt thanks to people in this room for getting me to India yet again. This is my third visit to India, third visit I think in 3 years, so now I'm a regular maybe, and my second visit to Amritsar in about 18 months. So it really is a great pleasure to be back here. So, to the thanks. Of course, I must begin by thanking Professor Geeta Hundal for actually coming up with the whole idea of me making a return visit to Amritsar, a longer, hopefully more meaningful visit in which I will get to meet many of you and talk to you about an area of research that I regard as important, and hopefully one that you will find interesting and exciting if you don't know about it already. Connected to the invitation from Professor Geeta in the first instance is also an extended invitation, I guess, under the auspices of this Gyan scheme with Professor Pradeep Mathur, who was previously of the IIT Bombay. He's now the director of the IIT in Indore. So in October, I will come back to India again to visit Pradeep and his colleagues in Indore to give a similar lecture course under the auspices of the Gyan scheme. Okay, so, oh, by the way, if I stand here, can you still hear me? If I move around, is that okay? So I'm standing behind a lectern the whole time. So this Gyan scheme, with which many of you are very familiar, was genuinely new to me the last time I came to Amritsar. I was not familiar with the details at all. But then, when it was suggested to me that I come back here, I went to the website and had a detailed look at what they do. The scope of their activities is really fantastic. Bringing people into India to talk about their research interests, maybe setting up new collaborations, making links with students, leading to longer-term processes. It really is a superb thing funded by the Indian government, and it's a great honour for me to be supported by this scheme to come back to India. One of the great advantages as well is that when you apply for an Indian visa under this scheme, it's so much easier than applying for a regular visa. It takes less than 24 hours, so that's great. So, what am I going to talk to you about over the course of the next 4 or 5 days? Well, as was mentioned, I arrived in India at 3 o'clock this morning. I don't feel too bad. But today is going to be a relatively gentle introduction to not just the chemistry that I'll talk about, but also the region of the UK that I work in. However, at some point we do have to do some real science, some actual chemistry. And so for the benefit of the students, I would like to just give you a brief overview of the topics that we will cover. Which reminds me, of course, that the group of people I am yet to thank, of course, are the students who have given up their time to come here and listen to me talk about this work, especially on a Sunday. I will do my best to make this topic interesting and exciting for you. What I will also say as well is that don't just let me do all the talking, okay? If you have questions, stop me and ask, okay? Because from Thursday, I'm gone, and you may not have that chance. So please do interact with me while I'm here. If not in the lecture, if you don't want to ask a question during the lecture, that's fine. Just approach me during the lunch break or the tea break, and I'm quite happy to discuss anything that you wish. So, what are we going to talk about? Well, I am a synthetic chemist, for sure. My background is very much in organometallic chemistry, and I guess about 7 years ago we became interested in looking at the magnetic properties of organometallic compounds, which is kind of unusual because if you think about how organometallic chemistry has evolved over the years, the applications are very strongly in areas such as catalysis, which you'll know about, sometimes in materials science, but in terms of magnetism, and especially involving the F-block elements, the lanthanides hadn't really been looked at very deeply in the context of molecular magnetism. And this is the sort of thing that was inspiring me a few years ago to try and start some new research. So, question for the professors, do you teach F-block chemistry here? Very little. Okay, that's good. It means I have something new to tell you. So I will give you an introduction to chemistry of the lanthanide elements. And the good news about that is it's really easy. Okay, for reasons that will become apparent when we start talking about the details, but in terms of the chemistry, if you understand alkali metals, S-block metals, you understand lanthanides. Okay, so in that sense we have a common starting ground, and hopefully that will get us moving forward. When I've established some of the basic principles of lanthanide chemistry, I will move on to a slightly more specialised area in terms of their organometallics, to tell you about why these compounds are interesting, what is known about them, what people use them for, and then move on to look at the areas that we are interested in. So we'll take these initial 2 starting points, then talk about the chemistry in a bit more detail, and then move on to magnetism. So, based on the schedule for this course, what you have laid out in front of you is seemingly a series of lectures. But I think it's important for you to actively participate in these sessions, because that way you will learn more. So rather than me standing here for 12 hours talking to you, okay, we will also have some participation from the audience, and there will be a workshop in which you will be provided with a problem sheet on lanthanide chemistry and magnetism to test your knowledge. Okay, these questions, by the way, are not difficult. They're not designed to catch you out. They're just designed to make sure that you're actually learning as you move through the course, rather than just passively listening to me. Okay, so hopefully you will find that useful. Following the workshop, and I guess this will be Tuesday if the timings work out, okay, we will then move on to look at molecular magnetism, okay, by starting with a few fundamental properties that will set the work in a broader context. And we will start to look at a specific application of transition metals in this area that's become known as single molecule magnetism. So we'll start in a historical context by talking about transition metals, and then we'll move on to the area in which we do most of our work, which is single molecule magnets with lanthanide. By that stage, you will have picked up quite a lot, I think, of specialist knowledge. So at that point we will pause, and we will work through another series of problems that I hope will allow you to test your knowledge and to gain some feedback from me on what you think you might already know. Okay? Then, in this session here, number 9, Molecular Magnetism 4, we will move on to look at some case studies, as I call them. So what we will do here is look at selected recent highlights from the chemical literature to actually demonstrate to you that this is indeed an active field of research. Very, very actively studied in many countries around the world. And with some of these examples, I hope to bring you up to date with some of the recent literature. And number 10 is optional. It depends on how things are going. Okay, so I have given a course similar to this previously, not quite the same, I've changed it specifically for this meeting. And what I have found is that usually it's important to have student participation in the presentational side of things as well. So aside from my regular research interests, I'm very much interested in the sort of philosophy and practice of teaching and seeing how students can learn by delivering presentations. So what I will do, with your permission, and if you don't want to do it, it's absolutely fine, is select randomly about 15 people in the audience to give something that I will refer to as a 1-minute lecture. Okay? Is anybody worried about that at this stage? Okay? So there is such a thing as a 1-minute lecture in which you can choose your own topic, or maybe I'll give you some help to move things forward a bit quickly. You can come down here for 60 seconds, you can stand here and you can tell people anything you like about this particular topic, but you only have 60 seconds. Okay? We'll keep it focused on F-block chemistry. Okay? And you can use PowerPoint slides if you want to, but you don't have to. You can even use this board here, and you can tell people in 60 seconds about something that you regard as important. Okay? So that's a challenge. Okay? Quite often when you attend conferences, you get a little bit frustrated by lecturers who talk too much. Okay? Talking too much is very easy to do. Talking for a very brief amount of time is very difficult to do, and particularly difficult to do effectively. Okay? So it's completely voluntary. I won't force anybody to do it, but I think you will find it very useful, and maybe you can take the idea away yourself and in a few years' time use it yourself. Okay? So the 1-minute lecture is a little bit like reading the news. If you watch the news on TV, right at the very start, the presenter tells you what they're going to tell you, then they give you some more detail, and then they summarize at the end, and that's your 60 seconds. Okay? So we will try that with some people from this audience, about 15 people. Does that sound interesting to people? We'll see how it goes. Nobody has to do it, by the way, it's voluntary, but I think we'll learn something from that. That should get us towards the very end of the course, and what I will do, again with your kind permission, is present a research lecture on the work that's going on in my laboratory at the moment on this topic here of lambda-night single molecular magnets, which will combine everything we've done previously and bring you up to date with where we are. So that's what we're planning to do. What do you already need to know? Well, this to some extent, I guess, is laid out in the schedule for this entire course. But we need a little bit of background knowledge. So basic principles of transition metal chemistry, I have no doubt that you will be told this already, so you will draw on that. Metal ligand bonding types, things along these lines. Counting electrons, you all know how to do that. And a little bit of very basic symmetry and group theory, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. When I was asked to provide a synopsis for this course, some recommended reading was also included here as well. Because the course focuses predominantly on the F-block elements, I've given you more books than you can ever realistically read in the time available, but these two just happen to be particularly good, okay, if you want to look at them. So that's what we're going to do. And hopefully by the time we get to Thursday afternoon, you will have a decent, well-rounded knowledge of an area of research that is important to me and to many other people. Okay. Now, because today is Sunday, which is your official relaxation time, and I've only been in India for about 11 hours, I think. Okay, I thought I'd start with a gentle introduction to my host institution. Now, the reasons for doing this are multifold, but I think it's possibly important for me to tell you a little bit about where I come from and where I work. The types of activities that go on in Manchester, not just chemistry, but widely across the campus, and the way in which the university tries to get involved in international collaborations, of which India is a really important part, which is part of the reason why I've been here in recent years. So, the city of Manchester is in the northwest of England, okay, kind of in the middle, population of about 2.5 million, so quite big by UK standards. I'm from the northeast of England, a city called Leeds. My accent, okay, Okay, when I speak English, it is very typical of the region I come from. So if you don't understand what I say, okay, just stop me and I'll try and translate it into English. Okay, that's okay. Okay, I don't really speak BBC English. You may have noticed this already. Okay, so the University of Manchester regards itself as a world-class partner for cutting-edge research and doctoral training. The background to the university, we have 25 Nobel Prize winners in the history of the university, many of which you will be familiar with in terms of Rutherford, he split the atom, the economist Arthur Lewis, very strong history in computer science, appropriate in the room we're currently in, I guess, as well. Tom Kilburn and Williams built the first programmable computers, and economics again as well. We have the world's first stereo radio telescope, and of course, I guess the one that many of you will know more about right now is that Graphene, is a Manchester discovery based on the Nobel Prize awarded to two of my colleagues in physics back in 2010. So if you look at the history of this, then it goes all the way back to J.J. Thomson and Ernest Rutherford. Moving to more recent years with Polanyi, a physical chemist, he was a student in Manchester. Michael Smith was interested in site-directed mutagenesis, bioinorganic chemistry, I guess, as well. And then more recently with the people mentioned there as well. In terms of what the university actually looks like, we are by far the biggest in the United Kingdom in terms of student numbers, 39,000. Many of our students are not from the UK, okay, very large population, about a quarter from outside of the UK. The university's annual income is over £1 billion, and we have more than 1,000 different degree programs. In terms of the research that we do, obviously somebody has to pay for that research, and the external income in the university is about £1/3 of £1 billion. It's probably worth saying that it's more expensive to do research in the UK than it is in many other countries. A lot of that research leads to spin-out companies, so wealth generation, and we're also investing a lot of this money very heavily into our campus development as well by modifying our engineering schools. In terms of our standing in the wider world, generally speaking, the aspiration is to be in the top 25. We are 5th in the UK and 7th in Europe, and we're pretty close to achieving the ambition that we want in terms of the global rankings. Okay, so we are one of the world's top universities, we feel, according to the Shanghai Index. In terms of how the academic activities are organised, there are 3 faculties, what we call BMH, Humanities, and then one that I'm involved in, which is Science and Engineering. Our research covers a vast number of different areas, as you would expect from a university of our size. But 5 areas are currently being held up as research beacons in which we are investing particularly strongly. So industrial biotechnology is a big one, advanced materials, energy in the broadest possible sense, cancer, and addressing global inequalities. So these are 5 key beacons. Certainly 3 of these, maybe 4 if you like, have a significant chemistry component. So the Faculty of Biology, Medicine and Health, I'm not going to say too much about that because it's not an area that I'm involved in to any great extent, but it is worthwhile saying just in passing that we have very strong global rankings, very high funding regimes from the research councils, and we focus in addition to cancer, things like dementia, single-cell genomics, clinical trials, and imaging science is a very big part of what we do. I'm going to jump that slide and go forward to looking at the Faculty of Humanities again as well. So this is not something that will interest many of you, I guess, in this particular room as well, but we are quite a big humanities faculty with a significant overseas component. Of relevance to research that involves the sort of Southern Hemisphere, if you like, as well, we've initiated what we've called the Global Development Institute, which is the largest such institute for teaching and research committed to addressing global inequalities. So it's centered around these key themes here as well, and what we're finding by following these particular themes as well, there are really fantastic opportunities for international collaboration and joint funding schemes. That's the business school. I should actually go back to that briefly, the business school. My first visit to India was on university business, and we set up a series of alumni meetings, one in Bangalore, one in Mumbai, and one in New Delhi. They were very well attended indeed. The university does have a very extensive alumni network in India. I'd say probably 75% of our Indian alumni would have studied in our business school. Okay, so it's particularly successful at bringing in people to Manchester from this part of the world, and this, I guess, is part of its reputation for being one of the best schools in Europe and arguably one of the best in the world as well. Now we come to science and engineering, which is, I guess, my home. So in addition to being a chemist, I'm also working in the faculty to look at things like strategic research funding and how we can support that in Manchester. It's true to say that Manchester is a big university, okay, I've already mentioned that, and our Faculty of Science and Engineering is actually bigger than many British universities. It's a huge operation. And as I mentioned in the past, since 1824, which is when the university was founded, we've been involved in atomic physics, computer science, and also various forms of molecule-based activity. £350 million is being invested into redeveloping our engineering campus, which will develop part of the campus that has currently been sort of earmarked as scrap land, and this will come online in 2020, which should really transform our facilities to genuinely world-leading in engineering. So as I mentioned then, computer science has a long and very distinguished history in Manchester. This chap here you may recognise, Alan Turing. He was extensively involved in working for the British government during the Second World War. He was involved in decrypting German code messages, and to do that he built a computer. After the Second World War he moved to Manchester as a professor of computer science and continued to develop instruments like this. So the amount of computer power shown in this image here as well is about the same power that you have currently in your iPhone. Okay, so a lot of this work really did start in Manchester. So the computer science school does all sorts of things: process and technology, nanoscale engineering, informatics is a very big thing, links to medical faculties with imaging, machine learning, text mining, information management, software systems, and advanced interfaces, all of which link together with these ideas of big data, which obviously is quite an important part of most computer science activity just at the moment. In terms of physics and astronomy, this one's been blanked out here, but I can tell you what it says in just a second as well. Physics and astronomy is a very big school in Manchester as well. It ranges from looking at the very small, the very big, to things that are very close, to things that are very far away. So we're very much interested in accelerator facilities, nuclear and particle physics. This one here that you can't see says condensed matter physics, which I think, as far as Manchester is concerned, means graphene and other TB materials. It's a vast area of research in Manchester, as you might expect. I mentioned right at the start that we have the world's first steerable radio telescope. That is indeed the case. That is the Lovell telescope, located at the Jodrell Bank Observatory, which is about 15 miles outside of Manchester, where the atmosphere is clean significantly. Theoretical physics plays a large part in what we do as well, and a lot of these activities, although they do take part within a physical location, they're also spread out across a series of multidisciplinary institutes that other schools are involved in. So we have the Dalton Institute. This is Dalton of atomic theory fame. He studied in Manchester before the university even existed, actually, way back in the 18th century. We have the Cockcroft Institute. We have the so-called Photon Science Institute, where a lot of laser-based research is taking place. And of course we have the National Graphene Institute, which I will show you a picture of in just a second. And then we have a new institute coming forward, which is currently at the design stage. The building work will start quite soon, but we will have the Sir Henry Royce Institute of Advanced Materials, which will be a national UK facility located on our campus. This name may be familiar to you, okay? This is Royce of Rolls-Royce fame. So Manchester is the world's first industrial city, according to our own version of events. And Manchester was the location in which Mr. Rolls met Mr. Royce for the very first time in a hotel in Manchester. And this started the legacy of engineering in Manchester, and as a result of that, we will set up an institute in honour of Henry Royce. This is the steerable radio telescope that I told you about. Manchester's about 15 miles in that direction. My house is about 5 miles in that direction, I think. And Manchester will be the global headquarters for a major radio telescope project known as the Square Kilometre Array. So it has sections in Australia, in South Africa, also in the UK, and it will be coordinated in Manchester. So this is almost finished. about this time next year, it'll be up and running as well. And it's brought in funding from a range of sources, from the government, these two here as well, and also from a local council just located near Manchester. So again, £16.5 million investment is a very big deal for the university. And then we come to the School of Chemistry, which is my home on a daily basis. See which direction we're looking at from the building there. Probably my office is, I think there, that's my office. So, as a result of recent changes to the way in which our university is organised, we became the largest chemistry department in the United Kingdom in terms of academic staff and student numbers. So we now have 86 faculty members in chemistry, which is massive, okay? So, obviously, big does not by definition mean the best, but we like to think that we offer the advantages of size. And one of the great things about having some members of academic staff is that we can offer a very comprehensive range of research topics for people to work on if they're interested. In terms of turnover for research grants and related things as well, our turnover this year is 32 million, so quite a big enterprise. Undergraduate students, about 725. Postgrads, which includes Masters taught, Masters research, and also PhD, about 360. So 1,000 students working, not just in this building, but other places as well. And we have about 150 postdocs at any given time. This is the chemistry building. This is where probably the majority of chemistry research takes place. Very significant amount of chemistry research takes place in this building shown here as well. This is the Manchester Institute of Biotechnology. So anything that's biological and molecular based will be happening in this building. And this one here is one of our new showpiece buildings. This is the National Graphene Institute, which 5 years ago didn't exist and then suddenly sprang up out of the ground when graphene became than it is right now. There's all sorts of interesting research going on in there. Some of it of a fundamental nature, much of it in terms of industrial relevance as well, as graphene starts to gain traction in a commercial setting. So, if I was to give you a detailed presentation on all the research that takes place in chemistry in Manchester, we'd be here all week. What I would mention just in passing though is some work that we believe has very substantial international impact, not inorganic chemistry, which is my area, rather organic chemistry focused on materials. This is my colleague Professor Mike Turner. He works in a lab known as the Organic Materials Innovation Centre. They do all sorts of interesting work based on polymers, optoelectronic properties of oligomeric materials, in all sorts of different areas as well. So things like this, where you bring open polymerizations, thiophene type materials for optoelectronic properties, all sorts of interesting things going on in top journals as well. School of Materials is a very big school in Manchester, bigger even than chemistry. In terms of the research that they cover in the School of Materials, they cover molecules, nanoscale objects, all the way up to aircraft, in terms of the materials they use to build an aircraft, and also in terms of the clothing that you wear as well, very, very big part of what they do. So biomaterials, coatings and ceramics, imaging, management and marketing as well, corrosion, nanomaterials, polymers and composites, textiles and apparel. Very, very substantial enterprise. With a significant amount of industrial funding as well. And as you can see here, I won't list all these in intricate detail as well, but the research that they do there links in with a number of institutes. I should mention this one in passing as well. This is BP, as in the petroleum company, the International Centre for Advanced Materials, which involves Manchester, Cambridge, and the University of Illinois, Champaign. That is a very big material science institute focused and coordinated from Manchester. So there is the National Graphene Institute. I think this is a picture taken when it was almost finished being built, but now it is completely built now. So in terms of our campus, then this is located quite close to physics and mathematics. This is the square footage of this building, and the entire building is focused purely on research in graphene and two-dimensional materials. A very, very significant investment. In terms of the facilities, the clean rooms that it has in here are second to none probably anywhere in the world, which is important for making materials that are sensitive to particulate matter. And it employs about 125 people involving 110 researchers. Some of this space is also allocated over to industry, so they can come in and use the facilities and work with us on things like this in Manchester. So what do you know about graphene? Probably about the same as I do really. I'm not a graphene scientist, but obviously the material was discovered about 15 years ago. It's the thinnest possible material. It's the strongest material ever measured by Richelieu theoretical limit. Stiffer even than diamond in terms of its material properties. Stretchable, record thermal conductivity, highest electronic quality, and the best known conductor of electricity. Does anybody in this room work with graphene? Not something you do. Okay? Somebody work with it. Well, if you do, Manchester is the place to pursue your ambition. Opportunity presents itself. And they do bring in a huge number of people from overseas to work in these facilities. In terms of what graphene can do as well, so this is intended to be a sort of snapshot of the structure of graphene, which I guess you all recognise. So it's spinning out into all sorts of interesting areas, some of which I've never heard of before until I put this talk together as well. But solar cells, transistors, photodetectors, various types of sensors, flexible electronics, okay, which I guess is starting to make interesting here as well. Energy storage and release as well. Composites and membranes, separations, bioapplications as well. Spintronics and something called Valitronics, which I can't tell you anything about. And a recent interview in a newspaper with Andre Klein, who was one of the people who won the Nobel Prize as well, pointed out that graphene is also now used in tyres, tennis rackets and trains. So it really is cropping up all over the place. In terms of energy research, you'll recall that this is one of our major beacons at the University of Manchester. And obviously it's an extremely diverse topic to work in. Energy means lots of different things to different people. So bioenergy, the use of energy in cities and urban environments, climate change, power networks, storage of energy, which is batteries, I guess, which is a very big part of funding in the UK. Nuclear is a huge part of what goes on in Manchester. We have very strong connections to the nuclear industry, which is located quite close to us in Manchester. Renewable energy, oil and gas, and also solar energy is a big deal as well. So, I mentioned that nuclear is a big part of what we do. In addition to research that takes place on our campus involving nuclear science, we also have an institute which is located, I think, about 60 miles to the north of Manchester, called the Dalton Cumbrian facility, which is part of this institute here as well. So this is basically located in the middle of the field, in the middle of nowhere, where it's nice and safe. And in terms of what this does, there's research leadership in a number of key nuclear power areas, state-of-the-art facilities, looking at current nuclear power provision in the UK, the building of new nuclear facilities, what you do with the waste which is generated, that's also looked at here as well, and also advanced fuel cycles in terms of development. We have something in Manchester called the Centre for Doctoral Training in Nuclear Science and Engineering as well, and this represents a significant investment from the UK government in the form of 50 PhD studentships to study nuclear science in its various forms. In terms of nanotechnology as well, this is again a part of the energy conversion thing. Lots of people in chemistry and also material science are looking at nanoscale applications of energy conversion and storage as well. Looking at silicon photovoltaics. This is work done within collaboration with a group in MIT. And then we move on to the School of Earth and Environmental Sciences, which I won't tell you too much about because many of you probably won't have many interest in that area. But nonetheless, the department is one of the original departments of the university. Again, it's quite big, 75 academic staff, 85 researchers. This is the building here, located quite close to chemistry. The one that I wanted to tell you about is shown here. Because this is a research project that's jointly funded by the UK government and the government of India, your Ministry of Earth Sciences. And this is looking at the properties of the South Asian monsoon that you will know all about, I guess, as well. It's a very substantial investment, and what Manchester has been doing in this particular area is sending a plane up into the skies around the south of India in particular, mapping the weather patterns and looking at ways at how the monsoon can be influenced by various geographical factors as well. So it involves IISc in Bangalore and two other universities in the UK as well, but nonetheless this is a very high impact research project coordinated by Manchester. Electrical engineering, I'm not going to tell you too much about that. I'll jump past it into industrial biotechnology because this is something that involves a significant chemistry component as well. So Industrial biotech is one of our university's main beacons. We're trying very, very hard indeed to get industry involved in bio-based chemical enterprises. And the institute I showed you a picture of earlier on is a leading facility in this area and is indeed very well resourced. Okay, so I'm going to jump over that one as well because I realise that time is moving on here. It's almost 3 o'clock. What I wanted to do is, having told you a little bit about the research that happens in the University of Manchester, is just expanding a little bit more detail about how this research spills over to the wider world. Because the way that research tends to work nowadays, that international cooperation, collaboration, call it whatever you like, is actually a very significant part of what any university should be doing. Of course, this is part of the reason why I'm here this week. So we have a connection with the University of Melbourne, where we can fund, at the moment, small-scale research projects. We have a connection, similarly, with the university in Hong Kong. Recently, we set up a collaboration with the Tartan Medical Centre in Kolkata, and some of our faculty in Manchester are involved in working in this particular facility here, which is spectacular, by the way. It's really world-leading facilities in Kolkata. We have links to Harvard University in social science, Peking University in health sciences. This is a university in Brazil, Sao Paulo, where materials science, atmospheric physics. And one that involves a very significant chemistry component, which I was involved in setting up. Manchester Chemistry has a memorandum of understanding with the IIT Madras. Okay, this will be the home to the India's National Centre for Catalysis Research, and we have very strong links with Professor Selvam and his colleague in IIT Madras. We also have links to Singapore and to Dubai as well. So for the students out there who are looking at this and thinking that it seems unusual, actually it isn't. It's pretty common now for universities in the UK especially to be engaging very strongly with universities in the wider world. In Manchester, that's what we do. Okay, so that brings me to the end of that particular presentation. There are just a few minutes left where my second presentation, if I can locate it, is here. And finish down to 3 o'clock. Okay. So now, having told you about the University of Manchester, we can now switch back a little bit to talking about some chemistry a little bit. But what I want to do before I get to that stage is tell you that there's a little bit more about Manchester than just the university. So in terms of the historical context, Manchester regards itself as the home of the Industrial Revolution. It was the first city anywhere in the world that had what you might call genuine industry. As a result of that, does anybody recognise from the students who these two people are? Karl Marx. That's Karl Marx, that's Friedrich Engels. Friedrich Engels was the son of a wealthy mill owner, so these are some mills in Manchester. He lived in Manchester, looking after his father's mills. His friend was Karl Marx, so he came to live with him in Manchester as well. They came to Manchester and saw the condition of people working in these things, and this is terrible, let's invent communism. Okay, so Manchester has a lot to answer for, but one of its main features is that the original ideas for communism were formed in large part based on the industrial situation in Manchester. That's what it looks like now. Okay, it's a big international city, has been referred to by recent governments as the Northern Powerhouse. The university is a really integral part of that. This used to be a train station, it's now a conference centre. That's the Hilton, that's Concert Hall. That's Manchester on a typical day, I wish. It was raining when I left, it will be when I get back as well. But obviously, Manchester is known for anything outside of the academic setting. It's football. I'd like to emphasise right now, okay, I'm not from Manchester. I don't support City or United, so please don't ask me that question. But what Manchester does have is the National Football Museum, so if you ever come to the city, I'd strongly recommend that you look at this place. And this is what the city looks like at Christmas with our famous Victorian Town Hall, Christmas market, and Santa Claus sitting on the top of the steps there. In terms of where we are, okay, just to put things in a context, I should perhaps have put this slide right at the start. So this is the UK, that's London there, that's Edinburgh. Manchester is here, roughly in the middle, okay. My hometown Leeds is somewhere around there, so we're in a central position. UK's largest university, this is one of our new showpiece buildings. These are the nice buildings, they're the oldest buildings on the campus, and of course, this is where the administration resides. Okay, there's no science going on in there whatsoever. This again is the School of Chemistry. The very first professor of chemistry at the University of Manchester was this chap here, Edward Frankland. Edward Frankland is a name that you might well have heard of when you were taught things like valence theory, combining power of atoms. Edward Frankland did a lot of his original work on valence theory in Manchester. He was succeeded by this chap here, who was called Henry Enfield Roscoe, and amongst other things, Roscoe discovered the element vanadium. Okay, so chemistry does have a very rich history in Manchester. This I've already told you about, and this is the slide that I will finish with today to try and whet your appetite for what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So, a significant part of this course will focus on the magnetic properties of transition metal compounds. We will look at them in a very fundamental context, the really basic properties of unpaired electrons on metals, how they interact with each other and with their wider environment. And then as the course goes on, we'll start to look at some more advanced applications. Not all of these, by the way, because the time does not permit that. So I thought I'd mention a few of them now. So there are lots of magnetic phenomena that people are very widely interested in. And one of them that you will know about is spin crossover. So spin crossover is a phenomenon that is, I guess, relatively simple to understand, in which transition metal can flip its spin configuration from high spin to low spin. It's been known for probably about 70 or 80 years. The most common metal used in this type of application is iron. Okay, iron spin crossover compounds are very common. Move on to this one here, magnetocaloric compounds. Here you can moderate the temperature of material by looking at magnetic entropy. This application relies very heavily on metals with isotropic electronic configurations, iron-3 and gadolinium-3. Interestingly, the iron here is pretty much the same as the iron in the spin crossover compounds. They do a different thing. Then we move to look at things like shift reagents. Okay. There aren't many real-world applications of molecular magnets, but I think shift reagents for magnetic resonance imaging are very, very widely used indeed. One of the most common elements used in this is gadolinium. The gadolinium here is the same as the gadolinium over here, yet they perform a different function. Then we move down to looking at things called spin qubits, which have been proposed as the basis of a quantum computer. Rather than having spin up and spin down, you can have a superposition of quantum states, and therefore manipulate information in different ways. This particular example is shown here is actually cobalt. There is a version of iron known as well. The metal in this is the same as the metal in this and in this, yet it performs a different function. Jump over to this side, molecular spintronics. So this is addressing molecules very much at the single molecule level as well. This is a lanthanide here, this is terbium. It's the same terbium as in this shift reagent, yet the two materials perform a different function. And then we move to look at single molecule magnets, which are known with transition metals and with lanthanides and with combinations of lanthanides and transition metals. It's the same metal every time, yet once again, it performs a different function. So one of the things that we're going to try and look at over the course of the lectures this week is working out how you can take the same transition metal species, put it in a completely different environment, and dial up a different property. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we are coordination chemists, or most of us are coordination chemists, and the way that you dial up your desired property is with smart ligand design. This is what will allow you to target different magnetic properties. So it's coordination chemists that really allow us to push this forward. And at that point, I'd like to finish today, and we'll start with this tomorrow by talking about some more fundamental aspects of lanthanide chemistry. 3 minutes past 3, not too late. If you have any questions now, I'm very happy to take them. Thank you.
So, thank you, Professor Layfield. So today's lecture, as we have seen, was introductory lecture. So we now know about Manchester City, the university, and the number of students. I mean, it was a very interesting thing to know. Most of us, we are just staying at our own place, not worrying about the rest of the world, but this was a good picture he painted in front of us, and now we we know a little bit about that. And the actual lectures about the subject is going to start from tomorrow. So I thank all of you for being here, and I expect all of you to come back tomorrow at 12 o'clock. I still really hope. And I wish all of the people who had registered, they would be here. You know, we have 121 people who registered for this course, and I really expect them all to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Subodh, for coming. Thank you, Dr. Manoj, and all my colleagues. Thank you, Dr. Vanipal. So it was nice gathering.